How's it going, everybody? It's your boy Homie G, and I'm back. All right, let's continue our discussion here. And actually, let's read a little bit. Page 21 says the people in your lives. But before we get to the people in your lives, this is about the people in your lives. How many of you, be honest, I will tell you right now, I saw my dad drink almost daily while I was growing up, okay? Beer, wine were his things. He used to smoke, but he quit smoking earlier in my life before I turned 6. But from when I can remember up until I left my home to go to college, my dad drank alcohol in front of me all the time. Now, raise your hand if you have seen your parents not just have maybe one beer a week, but if you've seen them drink every single day or maybe more than 3 or 4 times a week. Yeah. Okay, so how many of you have seen your parents actually do marijuana? Okay. No? Okay, but how many of you not seen your parents do marijuana, but you know they smoke marijuana? Okay. Okay, this is a tough one right here, guys. And if this is the truth, I'm really sorry about this. But how many of you have seen your parents do hard drugs like cocaine or fentanyl or other types of drugs that are really beyond the legal stuff? Because alcohol is legal, marijuana, California, legal, but still not nice to see for your age. How many have seen them do hard drugs? No? Okay, that's a good thing. I'm glad nobody in this class raised their hand, or maybe you don't want to get your parents in trouble. I totally understand that. But listen, that's tough, guys. It's really tough to see that. Okay, I'm really sorry some of you are seeing that to this day, because I saw my dad drink himself to a stupor, which means basically, or get violent and sometimes get upset very easily, or get upset at my mom easily, get upset at me, my sister, all because of alcohol. And now let's talk about why parents, from this book, why parents are doing this, okay? So while you're young, your parents, your teachers, your uncles, your aunts, older siblings, and so on, they spend most of their time telling you not to do drugs, right? Especially here at school. You've heard it maybe 100 times. Don't do drugs, all that stuff. We have assemblies and we have lessons on drugs and how harmful they can be. And they say to you, drugs are bad, quote unquote, bad. And drugs can kill. And they're not wrong. It's true. It's true. Drugs can kill, obviously. But that's not what many of you want to hear. So you know, they're doing this, adults in your life, to keep you safe and to protect your life's true potential. Because all of you have, and we can't quantify the potential, right? All of you in here have a tremendous amount of potential. What you can be in life, nobody here has boundaries for. Not me, and certainly not you, except for when you put the boundaries on you yourself. Okay, when you think on a limited basis. But if you don't, then there's no boundaries. Your potential is unlimited. Has it been unlocked yet? No, not yet. We're working on that. Now, unfortunately, guess what? Adults, they fall short of making a deep and lasting impact on you. Why? Parents are afraid. They're afraid to admit to their children and the people who raised their hand. This is what's going on with your parents, okay? When I asked you that question about smoking weed and drinking alcohol, this is what's going on with them. They're afraid to admit to you guys that they have problems. You know they have problems, but they're afraid to admit that they have problems. They don't want to seem weak to you because they're your guardians and they're supposed to be strong for you. They want to portray to you all of the courage and strength they can muster so that you have nothing yourself to be afraid of. They don't want you to be afraid of anything, right? That's what a parent's number one job is, to take care of their children. Make sure they're not scared of things in life. That's very honorable of them, right? It's very honorable that they do that. However, it's not always the right move. I learned that myself. That I would have loved for my dad to have told me what the heck was going on with him. Okay, why he was drinking so much. He never once communicated that to me. And I was old enough to understand. So one of my favorite movies, as you know, is The Pursuit of Happiness, starring Will Smith, which we're viewing. And Chris Gardner was one of my video mentors. I've seen many of his videos where he's being interviewed. In his life, he was under extreme duress. He was homeless while caring for his son. He lived with his son some of the time in the BART at the Bay Area BART station, Bay Area Rapid Transport stations. And he lived in the bathroom with his son. He'd lock it up. You're going to see that in the movie. Now, what I most appreciated about that movie is while watching the film, I saw how the character of Mr. Gardner, now I didn't read his book, I should read his book, but I don't know if this is true, but what in the movie, Will Smith playing Mr. Gardner, he actually talked to his son. Like his son was, you know, a grown person. Like even though he knew his son's little, but he's talking to him, he's communicating with his son. He's explaining to his son all the problems they have, okay? He was frank. He was vulnerable with his son. I wish my dad had been vulnerable with me, okay? And he didn't try to hide the obvious from his son. It was so obvious to the little guy that they were living at the BART station, okay? He wasn't dumb, the little guy. He totally knew that. So he didn't try to lie necessarily. Yeah, there was a scene at first where he's pretending there are dinosaurs out there and they have to find a cave. And that's kind of sweet and cool, but eventually he spoke to his son frankly, and he was very vulnerable at the time. Now, all of you are very perceptive, okay? We know this as adults. Teachers know this. You can tell when someone's BSing you, okay? And especially you can tell when your parents are struggling, right? You can tell. Now, despite their valiant efforts to hide things from you, I know deep down from my experience that it would matter more to you, right? I think it'd matter more to you if your parents admitted their faults. Oh my goodness, my dad admitted his faults with me. His mistakes that he made as a young man and his struggles that he was having trying to support an immigrant family in Eastside San Jose. I would have so loved to have heard what he was going through. If they, for example, could tell you that doing drugs is the way people try to relieve their emotional and physical pain, that's how they do it, with drugs. Wouldn't that make more sense to you than, oh, don't do drugs because drugs are bad? If they told you that doing drugs is what people who can't live in their world do to escape their reality, would that make you think twice, you yourself, about doing drugs yourself? If you realize that people are using drugs to escape, would that make you think twice about you yourself using drugs? Who knows? Who knows? Okay? You see, drugs, guys, aren't about fun, and they're not about games. Drugs are about life, and they're about death. Okay? So, as an assistant principal, I witnessed at Rancho, I shouldn't say the name of the school, but I witnessed where I worked for many years, kids poisoning themselves with drugs. Some of them sickened themselves so much, they had to be rushed to the hospital to have their stomachs pumped. If you don't know what that means, is they got so much drugs in their stomach, doctors literally with machines or however they do it, have to pump it all out and get it all out. Otherwise the kid dies, okay? The sad thing was that these teens that were coming to being mad rushed to the office, the nurse's office, and that we had to call 911 on them to have an ambulance come. The sad thing is that these teens didn't just hurt themselves. Okay? Who else did they hurt by hurting themselves? Their parents. Who else? Siblings, okay? They also scared and hurt their parents, younger siblings very badly by performing that act of getting intoxicated at school. I also spent many hours asking students who were under the influence at the time of marijuana, because they're still somewhat sober, but they were in front of my desk when I was suspending them, and I'd ask them. I'd ask them this question: so what hurts? After we got through all the paperwork and it was time for me to have a conversation with them, I asked them, so what's going on, so-and-so, what hurts? And they'd look at me like, huh? Yeah, what hurts? And like, nothing? No, I don't mean physically you have pain right now. I mean, what hurts inside? Why are you doing this? Why are you smoking marijuana? Why are you getting drunk? Okay? And then they finally break down in front of me. they start to bawl. Okay? Once they felt comfortable enough to talk, I'd break them down. I'd break down their wall. And I'd get to the root of the problem. And then of course I'd offer counseling the Homie G way. And I would, that wasn't my job to be a counselor as an assistant principal, but I'd get through to a lot of them that way. So doing drugs won't help your problems go away, number one. In fact, self-medicating, that's what it's called. When you take drugs for whatever problems you have, that's called self-medication. You're not seeing a professional, a doctor, you're not seeing a psychiatrist. You're taking it on your own self to medicate yourself. That's called self-medication, okay? That leads to more problems. Additionally, this could become a chemical and physical reliance on your part to continue your drug of choice. Once you start on a certain drug, guys, and it's so much more harmful these days. Opioids, so it started with, the fentanyl is the peak. I mean, fentanyl is the boss of opioids, okay? But before that, there were other opioids, I can't even remember their names, that were being sold out there, and kids were taking pills. Oxy was one of the most, like, 2010 decade. All the kids that were at high school passing out the Oxy, okay, that's an opioid. It's a very powerful pain reliever, very powerful. But fentanyl, oh my God, okay, it's like morphine times 100 or more. I don't know. Okay, morphine is the stuff they give soldiers on the battlefield right when they lost a limb or they're bleeding out to help them cope with the pain. The medic comes and gives them a shot of morphine. Now they took that drug, morphine, and they enhanced it synthetically, and that's what fentanyl is. It's more powerful than morphine, okay? And people literally die from a little bit. And kids these days, and some of them in high school, are dying from overdoses a whole lot easier than back in my time in the 90s. Because we didn't have those drugs like that. Access to those drugs, okay? So there's ways to handle your problems and that don't involve the use of drugs. Obviously, you may have had someone, let's say a counselor or a therapist, share some positive ways to get something called a natural high. So a high is what kids get from drugs, but that's not natural. You're getting it from a drug. A natural high is what you get from your own body, which has chemicals in it called endorphins. I don't know if you knew that, but your body can produce chemicals to give you somewhat of a little high, make you feel a little better. For example, runners, endurance athletes, endurance runners. They start running a lot, and after a while they get something called runner's high. So where they start to feel like they're coasting, like they're running on pillows. Like nothing hurts. They're going now. They're gliding. It feels great. So when I ran cross country, that's one of the ways I kept myself, relieved from my anxiety and my depression. I ran cross country, which gave me the runner's high, which let me cope with my anxiety and my depression, and it kept me off drugs. Participating in cross country and track, okay? But there's other ways to get natural highs from running. You don't have to run. Meditation, yoga, there's other ways, lots of other ways. We'll discuss those later. And basically, you got to obsess about something else when it comes to your life. You can't obsess about your problems. You can't obsess about, drugs. You got to obsess. You got to have something positive to obsess about. I obsessed about running, and it helped me through my troubles and my struggles. Okay? Let's see. Deflectors operating during high school, I had several personal problem defectors. Okay, so those were running. I constantly trained after school. I read the magazines my coach would have in his office, Runner's Mag, and I watched videos of the elite athletes that I would look up to back in my time. And I'd also go to the mall. One way I kept distracted is back then the mall was a thing. You'd go to the mall, you'd hang out at the mall, you'd see other teens at the mall. There might be an arcade at the mall. So hanging out at the mall back in my time was something we did. So I used to do that too. I used to leave my house, go to the mall. After I used to run, and I used to play basketball for hours. That was my love, basketball. and I'd go to the arcade. Those are mental distractions. And there's other ways here. We have stay busy, repeat as often as possible. This is a good one. Repeat it in your mind. Positive mental attitude. Positive, everybody say positive.
Positive.
Mental attitude. Never have a negative mental attitude. Always a positive. Okay, your problems, call them opportunities. Meditate. Remove yourself from change or accept your situation. That means holding on to bitterness is not letting go of your problems of your own. So you have to let go of your bitterness. Read inspiring real life stories. Volunteer to do things for society, the community, soup kitchens, etc. Go do a cleanup, a river cleanup or something like that. Pray if you're religious. How many of you? I know some of you in here are religious. You can pray. Pray for others. Keep a journal. How many of you keep a journal?
What's that?
A journal is like where you write your entries about how your life is going. Okay. And then lastly, be grateful for your problems because they give you a chance to be creative and solve them creatively. Okay, and have determination. All right. Thanks for listening. And I'm out. Deuces.